Because that'll have their address and name
It
right
has
at the very
all
top.
that, yeah, information.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie, Collier Brown. Really nice to see everybody. And I love getting minivan tutorials because I always learn something new. And that branched script thing was new for me this week because I opened up my minivan, my turf, and I was like, why is there only one question? What are the rest of the questions? So for experienced minivan block walkers, that's definitely something different in there. But it's great because I was block walking yesterday in my precinct and walking with a friend. We were both experienced block walkers, but she had minivan and our target list loaded on there. And then I had already loaded or added all of the voters on the streets that we were going to be walking to my reach network, which is what I'm going to be talking because I'm a precinct chair. And so I was marking those people in reach. And there was one house where we were going to walk up, and literally this minivan came up and stopped us and said, "Are you block walking for Beto?" And we're like, "Yeah." And all the different questions, like, "Those are my parents. They're total Republicans. Don't bother going there." Okay, that actually happened twice yesterday. The grown children were visiting their Republican parents, and both of their sets of parents were actually on our list. So a lot of people that I find when you end up running into Republicans on our list, it's because they don't vote in primaries, or they may have crossed over for one reason or another, but they're hardcore Republicans, and it's that's why I think the work that Blue Action and the Blue Action volunteers do by getting to know who your neighbors are and building that relationship, you guys have the best information about who's actually a persuadable voter, and and get those people out to vote. And that takes me to why I love Reach so much. I need a new hat. Yep.
Carrie, before you go on to that,
Sure.
what are the best days to block walk and what are the best times? I can't believe every day and every time is good.
Nope, that's a great question. We have found that for weekends, in the Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoons. So, I think we start our block walks to have you show up at 9:30 so you can be at your doors between 10 and noon. And then on Sunday, I think maybe at 2:30 to walk between 3 and 5. And I'm not really, I have 3 small kids, so I never block walk during the week. Does someone have a best time to block walk during the week?
Yeah,
I think
4 to 7.
4 to 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, once when people are home, right? So you can catch them.
So also Thursdays for me.
Thursdays are
better than any other day. Anyone find a particular day work better than others, or all days are equal?
Are you going? What time are you going on Thursday?
Thursday afternoons, just like 4 to 7 or so, worked out really nice. Seemed like more people were opening the doors.
Yes.
So
Maybe that's a popular work from home day or something.
Yeah.
Maybe so. So why I love Reach. I want y'all to think, well, first of all, has everybody downloaded Reach? Is there anybody who has not downloaded Reach? So if y'all can see this, you text Reach, the word Reach, to open your texting app, and the phone number you're gonna text is 33339. And you're just gonna type in the word Reach. And a little bot will respond to you promptly that will provide links to the iPhone version and the Android version of the Reach Progressive app. It's like a little blue ballot box icon. So I want y'all to think about this as relational organizing, which is exactly what Blue Action has been doing, right? So we had talked about getting your neighbors out to vote and working your circles. Those have been the 2 things that we've talked about for nearly 5 years. And this app is going to help you effectively do that. So I want you all to think about the Reach app and the 2 Million Texans campaign, which is the Texas Blue Action statewide coordinated relational organizing program, as not an extra thing that you have to do. It's going to be an app that you'll learn. It's pretty intuitive. But it's the thing that's going to make what you're already doing easier. And it's going to build that long-term infrastructure that we've talked about. I'm sure, who has like spreadsheets and notes that you've taken over the years about who the Democrats are and who the Republicans are in your precincts? Yeah, we've all sort of cobbled together ways to keep track of that. You're going to be able to keep track of that in Reach. Minivan is, and for now, I'm hoping that next cycle these things will be integrated, but for now they're not. But this is the way that I'm thinking about them, is Minivan is the app for talking to the voters that are the highest priority for us to knock on, right? Courtney talked about how we got what that target list is. So out of everybody who lives in your precinct, those are the ones we want to make sure we absolutely knock on and record those responses. Reach is the way that we can see if they voted, we can remind them, we can keep track of them past November 8th. The data doesn't disappear. It's going to be there for the next election. The other awesome thing is that as a precinct chair, I can see, so I have lots of neighbors, I'm kind of new to my neighborhood, so I don't know a lot of people. But I've gone through and added all those voters as neighbors. But my neighbor who I haven't met yet might be your cousin or your best friend, and you know whether or not they're a Democrat or Republican. And if you've marked them in the Reach network, I can see that. All those notes that you guys were talking about that kind of go into a black hole when you put them into Minivan, you put them into Reach, they're a lot easier to see. Okay, so who has not had any kind of Reach training? Okay, there's a couple of you. Download the Reach app and you're going to join the 2 Million Texans campaign. And the beginner training, which I'll go through with you guys separately, since I want to focus this one on a little bit advanced. The difference between those things is the two things that we're using Reach for. One is to make sure your friends and family vote. That's what the beginner training shows you how to do, is to take all the people that you know that are in your contacts and match them to their voter file so that you can see whether or not they voted, and it's real easy to send out a reminder. The second way to use Reach is to make sure that your neighbors vote, and if you're a precinct chair or a captain are just out knocking doors. So that's what I'm going to run through how to do that. If you see at the bottom, you've got icons. You've got a home icon, search, my Reach, rankings, chat. So the two ways to find voters are to search individually, and this is searching the same thing that Van is searching. So it's the Texas voter file. It's only publicly available information about those voters. And it's going to look similar to what you see on the profiles in Minivan. It's got the same tabs. It's going to look very familiar. And all of the data, every time you mark somebody as a likely Democrat or a likely Republican in Reach, that is tied to the same master survey questions that you're answering in Minivan. So all that data goes in there. The difference is that when you're knocking doors of that target list in Minivan, you're likely knocking on strangers' doors. You don't know them. You don't have a way to follow up with them. When you're marking it in Reach, these are people that you know, and you can follow up with them. Or the people in your neighborhood, and you can follow up with them. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through one quick way to add people in your precinct and how to mark them. Go to the search function and leave the name box blank, and in the location box, just type in your street name, where you live, the street you live on, and then hit search.
You might need your zip code.
Yeah, you add your zip code if you have a common, because remember this is searching the whole state of Texas. You can narrow it down by Travis County, which I've done.
Can you put Travis County?
You can. So after you hit search and the list comes up and it's too big of a list, up in the right hand corner you'll see a little button that says filter, and you can select county, and there'll be a drop down list, and you can select Travis. But just remember, when you do that, that filter stays on for every future search until you take it off. So if later you're looking for somebody who lives in Dallas, it's going to say not found. And you're like, I know they live in Dallas. And just check your filters.
The button is refine.
Oh, refine. Thank you. Not filters, refine up in the corner.
So is this showing me everybody on my street who is a voter of either side?
Yes.
Okay.
It does not say, so yeah, it's just the voter roll. So tap on the first person, and underneath their name, it'll say add to my network. That's the most important button. Select that, and it'll give you a drop-down menu of different types of relationships, and the relationships are really just for you to organize all of the people that you're adding in contacts. But when you're doing this, for adding your neighbors, add them as a neighbor for the relationship. Because that'll sort of, you'll end up, if you do this, then you'll end up with a whole lot of people, right? And you want to be able to distinguish your friends from your neighbors when you're sending reminder messages. So this is really tedious. to do this, and I'll tell you, I was standing right back over there, and I was like, okay, I haven't added anybody from Montebello Court in my neighborhood, so I searched for that street and added everyone, because I'm adding everyone in my precinct. We're asking block captains to add everyone on the streets that they're assigned, right? It's a good way for them to really keep track. As a precinct chair, as I said, any data that block captain or a volunteer canvasser puts in about the voters in my precinct, I can see it in my Reach network. So a couple of days ago, and I've been doing this for a couple of weeks. I do it at night when I'm watching TV, and it's real easy just to go through and add. And that's how I'm almost winning, which is also fun for me. There's a little bit of a friendly competition in Gamify to make it fun. If you click on rankings, you can see the top people who have added the most relationships. That's how I'm almost at the top, because I've added my whole precinct. But one of the things that I was able to do is on Tuesday, we needed more volunteers for block walking this weekend. And so, I'm new to my neighborhood. I moved from Southwest Austin over to kind of the Westlake area last year. And I looked through everybody who was a neighbor and everybody who was blue. And I sent them a text message and just invited them said, hi, I'm Carrie, I'm the precinct chair. Can you come block walk this weekend? Courtney.
Quick question, you said everybody that's blue, that's the thing that's along the left side?
Mm-hmm.
That means someone's marked them as a Democrat?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can see this in real time, and you can see who marked them and who the last contact was and how long ago it was. So did everybody add some voters from their street that they live on? You've all done that? Okay, so pause that. You can always come back and do more, but I want to show you what that looks like. So then at the bottom, tap on my network or my Reach. That will show you everybody that you've added to your Reach network. And you'll see that across the top, it's got some filters. You can just kind of scroll and find the one that is neighbor, and that should be everyone that you've added by your street, right? And if you know those people, and if you know they're a Democrat or Republican, you can tap on their name and survey them that way. And then you'll see. And you can also see if anybody else who's volunteered in the Reach 2 Million Texans has marked them, that you can see that. So for block walking, there's a lot of, I really advocate the best way to do this if you're a block captain or a precinct chair is to proactively add those voters to your Reach network. So when you're block walking, I think 1 of 2 strategies. If you're going with a buddy, we also, like when I was doing Reach, I already had everybody preloaded into my Reach network, and my friend Annie had the minivan list. So there were some people that had been marked Democrats in my Reach by their friends and family, people that they knew who were not on our target list. So we walk up to those doors too and mark them in Reach. Or if they have a friendly sign. I mean, who's been block walking and you see houses with clearly Democratic signs that are not in your minivan list. And you're like scribbling and trying to remember to tell somebody there's another Democrat in this house or on this block. Well, if you put it in Reach, then it stays there. And then, we've marked them and the precinct chair will have that information.
So are you
Or the
saying we
reverse.
could put an
Or the
address
reverse, yeah.
in Reach without knowing who's at it and say there's Democrats there? Because
It'll
there's one
tell
guy that I've had an address forever. I've never been able to get anybody at the door.
Search for his
But
address.
there's a Beto.
Yeah.
No, I've looked. I mean, he's been in minivan for me for cycles and cycles. Never there. And he's gone from the house.
Yeah.
But there is a Beto sign out front. But I haven't been able to get anybody at home.
So search for him in Reach, search for that address or his name, if you know who it is, add him to Reach and see if there's a phone number in there that you can text him or send him a text.
Yeah, no, all I know is their address.
But you can search by address.
Yeah,
I
if
know.
no one comes up, then they need to be registered to vote,
Right.
right?
But they're not. But the address isn't showing that anybody at it.
The address is
That's
actually
my
a
problem. Is they're there?
Interesting.
I haven't gotten a hold of them yet.
Right, so
But
searching,
they've got their Beto sign.
right, but you know the address, search that address in Reach.
I have, and it comes up now.
And
Are
they
you
need
sure
to
you-
be registered.
Yeah, they might not be registered.
Yeah. We're having, and it looks like you guys just did an update to pick up some registrations that weren't in there.
We didn't, they just updated the voter the data
Okay.
maybe like just this week. So that, like everything through, so I know what date that took care of, how recent that data is.
We got the email. I don't remember.
Yeah, anyways, the latest update is now in there.
Okay.
So people who have registered, I think the last couple of months should be showing up in both Van and Reach. Van data and Reach data about voters is coming from the exact same place. And all the information that you put into marking those surveys in Reach goes back to the coordinated campaign through Van. It's the same master survey questions. So if you're walking with block walking, this is what I want you to remember is if you're knocking doors in your own neighborhood, add those voters as neighbors. If you're volunteering and just picking up a turf in somebody else's neighborhood, mark those in Reach as met while organizing. And so it's a real easy way to just make sure that that stays in there. If you're walking by yourself, I like Elisa's idea, which is, walk with minivan. We need to mark that in that that turf got completed. But if you have any good conversations with folks and they're clearly like Democrats, I like the screenshot idea and go back and add those people to Reach and mark them as met while organizing if they're Democrats.
Can you mark people without adding them to your network?
Yes.
Okay, good. I did that yesterday.
Yes,
we did.
You can do that, but I would. I don't think there's any harm putting, adding them to your network and mark them as met while organizing. So, you'll kind of know that. You can, just if you don't want to follow up with them, but that way it might sort of say, okay, whose precinct is this in? I want to make sure the precinct chair has added these people and sees this.
I'm trying to understand the data of what I'm seeing when I look up my street name.
Okay.
And several of the people have a note that shows up that says didn't vote in the last midterm.
Oh.
Which obviously means they didn't vote in the last midterm.
Yeah.
What about all those other, did 90% of the people on my street vote in the last midterm?
Yes. So that's a great, thank you for reminding that. That is one of the most important things about Reach and what we're going to do with it is, for example, I've added, I think 2,200 people to my Reach network, like 1,700 of them are the voters in my precinct. 650-ish of them did not vote in the last midterm. And it tells you that in Reach. And you can actually filter that from the top. So the most important thing that we're going to do and why we're adding all these voters and asking everyone to get on Reach is if we all get 5 Democrats, people that have been marked as Democrats or the target list says are likely Democrats, 5 people who agree with us but didn't vote last time, and we get them out to vote this time, that wins. They all win. So those are going to be your highest profile. And you're going to be able to see during early voting. So early voting starts on Monday the 24th. On Tuesday the 25th, you'll get an email with your highest priority people in your Reach network for you to reach out to. And actually, you're going to get that weekend, starting before early voting. But you're going to be able to see for the day before each contact in your Reach network. It's going to say voted, not voted yet. Voted, not voted yet. So you're not going to have to wait for anybody to tell you. You're going to know who has voted and who hasn't, and you are the best contacts to reach out to them and make sure that they get out to vote.
Is that data going to be pretty reliable? And
it's reliable. It's just, I think my question is how delayed it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely reliable information. It's just the Reach data does not have to wait for Van to update. We're pulling that data, integrated with Phoenix, which is where Van gets that information. So we are not depending on a Van update, and it should be updating during early voting every single day.
Okay.
So on Tuesday, it'll show you everybody who voted on Monday, and then so on.
Okay. I mean, I'll bug my friends anyway, so.
Exactly, and we'll make it
They already
really easy in there, for you to talk to folks. But just remember that it's for 2 things. It's for working your circles. Import your contacts. You're not sharing the phone numbers and email addresses with the campaign, right? Because why do campaigns ask for that data? So that they can phone bank and text you and all those sorts of things. But the whole point of this is that you are going to reach out to your contacts. We don't need your information. You already have it. You're going to use that information to talk to them. So The only reason I would say it'll give you an option to either share the data or not with the campaign. Totally your choice. When you're sharing it, you're just sharing with 2 million Texans, which is Blue Action Democrats. But the only thing that we're using that for is to create a personalized phone bank for you of the people you know in your reach network. So if you share the phone numbers, that's how we can do that. If not, it's no big deal. Because again, nobody is sending these people any information or contacts. There's nothing automated that goes to them. You control who you talk to, how you talk to them, when you talk to them. Any questions? Yep, Courtney.
I have a quick question because, so for precinct chairs, if they have the capacity, before that email comes out, if they could get everybody added from their, by street, right, based on a target list, that would be very effective. If they can't get everybody added in their precinct, but.
The target list, that's a great, I think that's a great strategy. Is for precinct chairs, like expert level, go through between now and early voting and add all the voters in your precinct. If you don't have time to do that, and again, I'm doing it at night for an hour or so, I'm watching TV. The sort of next level down, but still awesome, is to take the target list that has been cut for you, right? You can pull it in van and just add those target voters to your reach network. I think that way is still kind of harder because you have to search individually for people each time. True. I think it's still a whole lot easier just to literally search for the street name and then just bam, 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 and add each person. That's a good point. So as far as time, I don't think the second one really saves you any time, but it is, another strategy to do that. But that email, that important email where 2 million Texans, Blue Action is gonna, say these are your highest priority people to go talk to, we can only send you that list of the people that you've added to your reach. Right? So add people to your reach and invite, and we're gonna do more of these trainings. We have another one coming up this week on the 7th for Blue Action block walkers. We'll send out an email for block captains and precinct chairs to do this new sort of proactive using reach to organize and get your neighbors out to vote. And I'll tell you that no one's used reach this way. And we're doing two really novel things. Reach has been used before really successfully with the John Ossoff campaign for Senate in Georgia. He won by like 100,000 votes. And their reach campaign, they built a network of 160,000 voters in 40 days. And that was with a paid and a volunteer program. We're only doing volunteer, but the things that we're doing are, when I said it's a coordinated campaign, that means we're not doing this for any particular candidate. We're doing it for Democrats up and down the ballot. And we're gonna share the data with those campaigns. And what does that mean? And how does that, match what I just told you about not sharing, your friends' data? What we're sharing with those campaigns is who knows the target voters and how many of those target voters we have in our network. And I think right now it's like 40% of the 122,000 relationships that we've added are on that target voter list that everybody is walking and talking to. So the more we build this out, the more it benefits all of the Democrats up and down the ballot. So the second novel thing is that in addition to using reach to organize the people we already know in our phone, that we're doing this really big push to basically organize our neighborhoods with it. So I'm really excited. I think that'll make a huge difference. It optimizes what you guys are doing, and it shows like what the power of reach. It's going to set the standard for how this gets done in all the future elections, I think.
So if you have people who vote by mail, you know how soon that's going to show up on reach?
So it tells you
that's what's happening now.
Right, yeah. So there is a tab on there, a filter, where it'll tell you if they voted by mail in the last election. But I think that doesn't start showing up until early voting. They don't start reporting out the mail ballots that they've received. Those don't get counted. So it's when the votes get counted is when it'll show up that they voted. And even though they may be already receiving them, they don't actually post those as votes votes by mail until somewhere in the middle of early voting week. Any other questions?
Actually, Robin just asked me a really good question on text. In the
Okay.
back of the room. I don't know where she went. How do I get a list of streets in my precinct? And I thought of the handy dandy map that Ross emailed all of us that has the overlays.
Okay.
Zoom in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I've just been doing it with Google Maps. Like, I know the main streets, but there's a lot of little coves and things in my neighborhood. And so for those little streets that I may not know off the top of my head, I've been just going to Google Maps. If you don't know your precinct that well for exactly where the perimeters are, then that's, if y'all can send those out to everybody and say this is a good way to find the streets. If you're a voter, on the list on My Reach on the left-hand side, you'll see a little color if somebody's answered the survey. So it's just a quick little visual down your list.
But otherwise, it would just be the voting history, right?
Well, no, it's on the survey. On the survey tab, when you tap on their profile and somebody has answered that 1 to 5.
But if it doesn't have the strip of blue,
That means-
they haven't done a survey yet. Then
Correct.
it should go to the voting.
You can look at the voting history. Yep.
Like this person.
And is this picking up? So I have my Houstonian that moved from Houston to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Is it picking up if they voted in the Republican primary in Houston?
Yes.
And so they're just showing the
If they
line.
moved within Texas, they
Yeah.
should have their voting history. If they moved from outside of Texas, it'll show them as ineligible
Okay.
for those previous elections.
Okay.
Oh, that's what they meant. Okay.
That's
Yeah, I
what-
have
So
that.
they were not
I
registered.
have that laugh from some of my friends. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, it's because they didn't live here yet.
Yeah.
I was supposed to get like mad.
If they weren't registered yet, it'll show that they were ineligible for those previous
I was like,
elections.
I didn't think my electrician was a criminal.
Yeah. It said my brother
You have to
didn't
be
vote in the presidential. I was like, oh, he lived in Minnesota. That's why. So it's about
I have a question,
Yeah.
and I also wanna say one thing about, also be sure, I mean, you probably know which Republicans are on your street. Mark them in here, so we
Yes.
don't end up wasting time sending people, or the campaigns can know, avoid that house, like, don't waste your time. So definitely go in and mark your Republicans. And then also, I have a question, I feel like that, when I first started this, I was able to note that somebody had moved out of state.
You can do that.
I can't find it now.
So underneath their name, next to voter, there's a little plus sign.
Okay.
Tap on that and it'll give you the options to mark if they've died, if they've moved within Texas or moved out of Texas.
Oh, that's
Rest in peace.
Right, and it's, again, those are all, the voter rolls may not have caught that, and so it'll save, an awkward, sad phone call if you're trying to get someone out to vote and they've already passed away.
Right. Or like on my street, it has people that have moved. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they still there?
Yeah.
Two move questions. One
Okay.
move question is, I don't know, I know they moved,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it's in-state or out-of-state. What's our default on that? But they definitely have moved.
That's a
Do
good
you want us to
question.
default to Texas, or do you want us to default out-of-state?
I think if you default to in Texas, that maybe there's a way that, they're looking for those to make sure that they get a new voter registration form. So that's how I would default, because if you mark they moved out of Texas, they're just gonna say, well, we don't need to even look for those people.
And another one we're not capturing, but I got a vote today, it's in Canada. If they left Texas and moved out of the country, they're allowed to vote in Texas.
Mm.
They get to vote at their last place in Texas, and they are still good votes for us.
Oh, okay.
So we need a out of the country.
Well,
to
that's
follow up.
just gonna be they have to request a mail-in vote.
But if I'm talking to somebody that's left the country 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't know they were allowed to vote.
Are they still
because they've been-
registered?
They are still registered, but even if they're not, they can go to the federal voter
Okay.
assistance program and vote, and we don't know that. I mean, most of us did not know that. And, it was a vote that I got at my door today.
Oh, that's good
His
to know.
dad came back to me and said, how can I get this? Jason's in Canada. He wants to vote in this election. He didn't know he could.
Huh.
Wow.
Okay,
So
I'll
we
go back
need
and
to add
ask
a
for some information.
country one because those are people that we could chase.
I'll check and see,
I mean,
TDP has a ton of information on their website, the Texas Democratic Party, and I'll look and see if it's on there and can include a link, some information to that. Any other questions? That's a really good one. I hadn't gotten that one yet. Okay, thanks for having me. Thanks for everything that y'all are doing. Really appreciate